Okay, sash cord is a 11mm diameter white nylon rope that can be bought in any hardware store or marine store. Generally anywhere between 40 and 50 cents a foot. Okay, when cutting it, you should tape, cut, and then melt the ends so you don't get any fraying. I will show that in a later film. Okay, it's a very useful piece of kit when it, in regards to ground search and rescue. You know, especially when you're going up any kind of grade, it'll assist searchers in getting up that piece of high ground. And you know, it should be carried by everyone. So if you have 5 members in your team, each with 20 foot, theoretically you should have close to 100 feet of rope handy. Okay, the parts of the sash cord or any rope, when you're teaching a knot class, you should you should use the parts to assist you in teaching knots. The first part we're going to cover is the running end, and the running end is the, otherwise known as the working end, will be the end that you're going to be tying the knot in. Okay, so the end that's away from the coil. The standing end is the coil that goes toward the rope that goes towards the coil, or the end that goes towards the coil. And of course we have our coil down below here. Parts that'll be utilized in the knot. Okay, in making any knot, one will be a bight. Okay, and a bight is just simply a bend in the rope. A loop, unlike a bight, runs over top of the rope and makes a loop, of course. And the third part is actually a knot. It's called the overhand knot. Basically you make a loop and you feed the running end through the loop. Okay, that's an overhand knot. This coil down here is what we call a rat's nest. It's not, although it looks a little bit distracting, it's actually laid out in a coil so that when I pull it up it will not tangle. And basically the reason why is you're just laying the rope on top of itself. Okay, when carrying the rope on a task, I'll be showing this at the end of this little vignette. Okay, you may want to coil it up like this for ease of travel. You have a bight at one end, and of course the 2 ends coming out the other end. Okay, the most useful function for the sash cord is what we would call a knotted handline. I was taught this several years ago, and I found this this device very handy in many occasions, not just for climbing, but for hiking as well as snowshoeing. I've used it several times during snowshoeing. It helps snowshoers get up a steep grade, and again will come in handy on a search. I can't foresee an area around here where you wouldn't use a knotted handline, and it can be used alone with the one sash cord, or you can combine the sash cords together to make one big long knotted handline. To draw a knotted handline, all you simply do is you take your running end, you make a loop. You take the running end, you flip the loop over and lay the running end in the middle of that loop. Next, you take your standing end and you flip the rope over into loops on top of the first one, just like so. The space between these knots will depend on how big your loops are. In this case, I'm making the loops somewhat small, so the knots should be close together. And you don't want to loop all the way to the end, because you're going to possibly be tying your running end off to another line. To To complete the knot, you just simply reach into the middle of the loops, you grab the running end that you placed in there, and you pull up. And what you get is a series of knots in your rope. And all you have to do is dress them off and tighten them up. Okay, and that is a knotted hand line. A lot easier to tie than individually tying the knots, overhand knots into the rope. Okay, again, it can be used singly by tying a round turn 2/2 hitches off an anchor, a bomb-proof anchor of course, or you can combine 2 sash cords. So here I have this other sash cord. I'm going to take it apart. So I'm not going to bother tying the other hand line. Okay, I lay the 2 running ends together. I'm going to grab one running end and I'm going to tie a double fisherman. Okay, I'm going to take the running end, wrap it back on itself twice, feed the end through on itself. Okay, so I have a knot like this. Looks like almost like a clove hitch. And then I do the same with the other running end. And then when I pull them together, those knots are nice and tight, and it adds another knot to your knotted hand line. So instead of having a 20-foot rope now, I have a 40-foot rope. That is the end of the first lesson.